Hi, welcome to Tasty Tuesday on Christie's A Plus Cooking. We have a guest cook today. This is Paulette LeMieux, otherwise known as PB. We grew up in Farmington, New Mexico and have been BFFs for over 40 years. After high school graduation, we kind of took different paths, and when Ken and I decided to retire in Idaho area, I was so excited that Paulette had moved to Idaho Falls. Anyway, in fact, she helped me pick out my beautiful granite for my house.
That was so fun.
Anyway, this week's theme is I is for Italian cuisine, and I've been talking to Paulette a lot about my different themes. And when I chose this, I knew she would be the perfect guest cook because her family is from Italy, and she served a mission for our church in Italy. So I'm gonna let her take it away.
Wow. Well, I am very happy to be here, and I can't tell you how happy I am that you're sharing her with me. And I say sharing because I know a lot of her Vermont friends are watching, and I love that. And I feel like you're my friends too. So I hope you will accept me in your friendship circle. I am happy to be here today, and this is one thing that we're going to bring to the table is this lovely, this is, what do we call this? This is going to be a gravy that's rustica. This is just a rustic gravy. It's something that we make ahead of time, and we do this beautifully on the stove, nice and slow. I'm going to show you how to make that, and we serve it on top of polenta. Now, the area that I am from, if I may say, the area that my family is from the Dolomite area. It's called Val di Non, and it is the Trentino area or South Tyrol. So it used to be Austria. When my grandmother was born in 1909, it was Austria, and that's in a strategic spot in the Dolomites where that was the way the access into Austria, and so it was, that borderline was always, depending on who was had the power at the time, that's where that border changed back and forth. So it was annexed into Italy, and I won't get into the whole history of that, but that's where this family and my family, both sides of my father's side of the family, are from, and so it has a very Germanic mix, and we have a lot of this good kind of family food that is more from the mountains and the rustic area. So they were farmers and other things, but that's what they had, and so they would have this nice hearty meal, and then they would serve it on top of polenta. Now, polenta is a hard grain. It's just corn grits, basically. And so they would serve that and make a nice big pie of that, and then serve this on top of it, or something very similar to this using probably chicken and just whatever was available at that time. And then they would use the leftovers, and they would make a nice big pie, and then they would serve it in a slab with different cheeses with this on top of it, and then the next day, take a slab of it, fry it in butter, which we absolutely love. And
that's one of the reasons why I wanted her to make polenta, because that was the one thing that I remembered having at her house when I was in like 14. And so that's why I wanted her to try this and make this. So she's gonna show us how to do that now.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Do you want to put that in the oven first?
Absolutely. We'll heat this up. Like I said, you can make this ahead of time, and you can just have it for leftovers. You can heat it even in the microwave if you don't get your meat too tough. So I just stick that right in there. Okay. We're ready to make the polenta, and the polenta is just something that we're going to stir very slowly and cook it slowly, and that's why the lenta part of that word. We're going to get this to a nice rolling boil, and while that's getting to a good solid boil, just tell you a little bit about this pan. I found this pan where my mother's family is from, but on the other side of the top of the boot, and that's in the Prarestino area, which is the Piedmont area, and in the mountains as well. But I happened to get this polenta pan, and I like to use the copper because it cooks well on all sides, and it conducts the heat evenly. And so when that gets to a nice hot boil, we will add our salt, and I'm going to just tell you the amounts right here while that's not getting boiling very fast. But anyway, I found this, which is great. It's Bob's Red Mill corn grits, expressly for polenta. I like it because it's more coarse. And Alber's, which my sister loves because she likes more of a soft polenta, is also good. The Alber's that you can find in any grocery store, and they use that. We use that for cornmeal or cornbread. But this is more kind of like grits. And I like it because it's just more coarse. In my family, my kids grew up having this, and that's what they like. I add the entire bag because it just happens to be the right measurement. So in the pan, we have 2 liters of water, which is about 8 cups of water. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement because some people like it a little runnier and some people like it coarse. And so I'm just going to show you the way that we're used to having it. Okay, now that this has come to a rolling boil, we put the salt in now, and I always reserve just a little bit just because you might not like it that salty. That's about how it is, and I'd like to just test it. For some reason, it just seems to. It seems to vary, is what I wanted to say. Sometimes we just need it a little more hot, sometimes we don't. The same thing with this. Another reason I like this particular kind of cornmeal is that it seems to cook a little faster. Now I'm going to put all of this in now because I don't want it to have the rest of this flour or the cornmeal. See how it's thickening? Oh, sorry, Christy. Let me put this all in here. And then if it gets a little bit too thick, I can add more water to it, but I want to make sure that it's all nice and smooth. And this will pop and splatter, and that's why you want to turn down the heat and cook it slow. This will burn you big time. And it looks like it has little lumps in there, but we'll get those out. Okay. I will go ahead and put a little water in my measuring cup here. If this gets to seem like it's getting really thick, I might just add a little bit of water. Again, this is just to your liking. I like it to stand up straight, and I like to have it be thick because it will be like a nice slab of it. That's the way my family likes it. You'll see lots of recipes in different recipe books that will call for a creamy polenta, and that's mostly you're going to be starting and putting the cornmeal in when the water is cold, and then bring it. That takes a long time. My family doesn't want to wait, but we like it this way. We like to have it cook fast. Okay, Christy, if you would like to stir this, I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil, and if you'd like to continue stirring this, we will. We will talk about that gravy that's in the oven.
Okay, I'll take over.
Yeah. Okay, while that is getting stirred by Christy, we will talk about how we have the meat that's already getting prepared and getting reheated in the oven. Why I like to have this all done ahead of time, because the polenta takes your full attention. It really does. You think you could walk away, but you don't want to walk away from it. Just stir it. It does take a long time, but we can take turns, and it's just fun to get the polenta stirred. It is a slow cooking meat steak. It's chuck roast. So it has a little bit of marbling here. The more marbling, the better. This is a 2.5, a little bit bigger than a 2.5 pound roast. And we cut it up ahead of time in however big piece you want it. And my dad likes them big. My sister and her family like them very small, and we like them right in between. So I would cook it in about 2 inches by 2 inches. And the one that's in the oven, I did a little bit smaller. And the reason I like to do it for 2 inches is because it just keeps the moisture in the meat. And so the important part about this is just the methodology. And I could just give you the ingredients, which we'll list those, but how it's done really does take it just really makes the flavor. And so that's what this is all about, is the flavor. We use tomatoes, so a couple of cans of diced Roma tomatoes, and you can either use 2 cans of this small or 2 cans of this, or whatever you want, however many tomatoes you want to have in your recipe. But what I do immediately is open the can, and then I take it and put it in a large bowl. I'm going to set this right over here. I put it in a deep bowl with a colander in the top, and while I'm preparing the meat, I will have this sitting off to the side. So open up the cans of the tomatoes, take the lid off, just dump this right into a tall thing in a colander so it will drain the tomatoes. And why I give that long explanation is because you're going to just smash this down to where it really gets the moisture out of the tomatoes. And so while that is cooking, while it's draining, excuse me, while it is draining, then I set that off to the side and take a medium onion, and in a pan, a frying pan, or the pan that you're going to be cooking in. Christy's got a great ceramic coated cast iron pan. Is that right, Christy?
Dutch oven.
Dutch oven. There we go. She has one of those, and that's what I would do it in. I would put the oil in there, just put a little bit of olive oil, and then slice the onion just in little slivers, an onion a full size like this, and let them cook until the translucent stage. Now this is the extra important part. You let it get to the translucent stage, but then you also let it cook down, not to the full caramelization, but let it get kind of brown and crispy, and that's great. Then you take those out of the pan, you set them aside in a dish, then you come and get your tomatoes, and you let those drain. Then I take something else and I just press it. Here's another little Italian little thing that I have. But this is a colander, and you press out the tomatoes to get out the moisture, and you don't throw this away. You want to keep that. But then once the onions are done, you'll take that tomato mixture, and it's just nice and dry. And my sister even drains it out with a paper towel. She likes them really dry, mainly because she doesn't want it to splatter when she puts it in the grease. And so, in the olive oil. So she takes that, and we just stir that and get that nice and brown. And that, I have to just say, is the key to making the flavor to this, is just having that tomatoey, oniony, almost to the caramelization, get all the moisture out of it, and then you take that out, set it aside, and you'll take your meat that's been cut up in 2-inch squares, or whatever size you want, lightly dusted with salt and pepper flour. Now I can't even give you the measurements on this because that's to your own liking. But we put salt and pepper into the flour and then brown them in the pan. brown them on all sides of the meat, and that just sears the meat. It also gives nice browning into the pan, and then you add your tomato mixture and your onion mixture back on top of your meat, and then add that lovely tomato sauce that was drained, and that will take the drippings and everything that have been on the pan, not burnt, but you have to watch it and make sure that they're not burnt, and then put that in there and put water to however much you would like to have. Now, that's hard to say, and I'm saying this from a grandmother that always said, well, I don't know how much you do. You put a carrot that's this long, and if the carrot's fat, then you put one in this long, and if the carrot's skinny, you put one in that's this long. So nothing is measured, but that's basically what it is. But salt and pepper onto the meat, as if you would just want to put enough salt and pepper that you would have on your meat, and then you can taste the gravy once it gets going. But that's how you make the gravy, and then we take that lovely pan that has the browned meat and the tomatoes in it, and you put it in the oven. And we're just reheating the one now, but then we put it in for at least 2 hours in a slow oven or on the stove top, nice and medium heat to simmer, to just let it cook for 2 hours. As you will discover, you'll need someone to take over for you. It takes a long time to stir this, and a little bit of muscle too, and tenacity. But you can see how it's starting to pull away from the pan. That's when you know that it's starting to get done. Now, generally, it pulls, as I said, it goes away from the wooden spoon. I've never had this happen, but I don't know why it is this time, but it might happen to you. That doesn't mean it's a fail, that's for sure. But it's good. It's good. And it's a little heavier, and we discovered something. I've always cooked on a gas stove. I've not cooked on an electric before. If I were to do this again tomorrow, or in another 40 minutes, I would put this and leave it on high, where the water is boiling. You put the salt, then you put the cornmeal in, stir it in. I almost dropped the pan before, so that's, the wrapper of the bag of the cornmeal before, so I kind of held back a little bit. But I would put all the cornmeal in, stir it, and keep it on high, and just keep stirring, because the electricity keeps kicking off to maintain the temperature, and you want to have the steady temperature of the heat. So I would just plan on standing here for about 30 minutes, have a person to help you stir if you need to, and I've done it sometimes, and it's been done in 20-25 minutes. But this one's taking quite a bit of time. It's been 50 minutes so far, and it's not extreme. It's still good, but it would be lighter, and a little bit lighter and fluffier. But this is the main thing, is it pulls away from the wooden spoon. And if Christy, if you'll hand me that wooden plate, I think we're going to be about ready to dump it out. This is where you'll see that it's going to form the little pie. Oop, don't want that. Let me just stick this on top. And that's the way it goes. So you have a little shell, and it's good if you want to kind of cook this a little bit more. It's kind of like tortilla chips. That's what we like them. Anyway, there you go. Okay, now that we have just pulled this out of the copper kettle, we're going to take the gravy and the roast that has been warming in the oven that we did earlier. And there we go. It's nice and hot. And we will plate this up. This is the way we do this. Just got a ladle here. So we'll take a little bit of, let me move this over so we can see that. Can we see that okay? And then we'll, sometimes that happens. Okay, so see how it doesn't stick to the knife? Okay, and we just plate it up like this. We take a little slab, we take some cheese of your choice. We've got different kinds here.
Swiss, we have Munster, and
and Worcester and
Provolone.
provolone. And sharp cheddar is really great on here too. We just stick a little bit of this on top. I know that helps that melt. We put this on here. And a little bit of gorgonzola. And a little bit of Parmigiano. I have stories to tell about that. Boy, that's great. And there you have it. And would you like some?
Thanks for watching Tasty Tuesday. We'll see you next week.